Speaker, for the opportunity, and can I wish everybody, not just the Brexiteers, can I wish everybody a very happy Unicorn Day today. But first of all, Mr Speaker, I'd also like to pay tribute to the members from across the House who have made today's votes possible and who actually did try to find a meaningful way through this from all parties, I think. And that's something that we have to do increasingly in a parliament of minorities. It has to be said, Mr Speaker, I still find it astonishing that we are still debating whether or not to rule out a no-deal Brexit. And even today, this most simple of moves, in our amendment, that the delay should be of at least 3 months, seems like a measure that we shouldn't even be discussing or debating. So straightforward and common sense does it seem. Yet we're having this debate. But I want to make clear that from our perspective, we're nowhere closer to finding a solution to this. And that means we need a lengthy extension to sort out the mess that the Conservative Party have created for everybody in the UK. Now, Mr Speaker, ministers know that no deal will be devastating for jobs, the economy and public services. Ministers know that. And yet we still know that there are a number of ministers who would like to see us crash out on Friday night. That is a case, plain and simple, of putting party above country. And I'd like on that point to pay particular tribute, and I won't do this often, to those Conservatives in particular who have sought compromise. And I'll say to those Conservatives, they will disagree with me strongly and legitimately on a regular basis, but I pay tribute to their courageousness that they have shown. It is the way that they are treated when they've sought to reach that compromise and reach out, as we all must, in a parliament of minorities, and they find themselves being deselected and called all sorts of names that I will not repeat in this House, and that is an outrage. This is a party that has been taken over by the most extreme elements who want to crash out of the European Union for trade deals that never materialised, for parliamentary sovereignty that disrespects the devolution settlement, for democracy, that they call it, democracy in a place where somebody can make laws due to an accident of their birth. What kind of democracy is that? These Brexiteers, and we're in this mess because of these Brexiteers who couldn't even agree what kind of Brexit they wanted, never even bothered setting it out. And I notice them chuntering from a sedentary position. Not one of them can defend that position. Not one of them can, and I'll give way to the honourable gentleman on that.
Am I not right in thinking that the referendum vote was the biggest expression of democracy this country has ever seen?
Well, there was a higher turnout in the Scottish independence referendum when things were set out. There's been higher turnouts in general elections before. And the honourable member, I noticed, and there have been higher turnouts in general elections, higher turnout in our own referendum, and I also note that the honourable gentleman needs to recognise that democracy did not stop that day, nor will it stop that day. I also recognise that when the honourable gentleman stood up, he didn't bother defending the point I was making about them not setting things out. He didn't have the courage or decency to tell us why these Brexiteers had not set anything out, because they had no plans and they are in a mess of his own doing and their own doing. Mr Speaker, President Tusk was right to say that there is a special place in hell for those who wanted to leave the EU but hadn't even thought about how to do it. President Tusk, who stood up for democracy, who went to jail for democracy. Now, that particular hell he's referenced seems to have come early by a House of Commons that is blocked up by Maastricht rebels of a quarter century ago, still fighting the same fights, and where we don't get time to debate the impact of Tory austerity in public services. We're not debating the biggest challenge of a generation over climate change, but we're talking about process in Parliament, a Parliament that is increasingly failing. And on that point, we're being told by the Tories who back Brexit that we have to leave now, with the disastrous that will bring, because of the European elections. Just think of that. A parliament that's fully elected, with no appointed members in sight. Can you imagine? Imagine elections that give people decisions over their futures. But we are told that we shouldn't participate in those elections because of what it will do to the Conservatives in electoral terms. Mr Speaker, I don't give a stuff about what it will do to the Conservatives in electoral terms. I do care what a disastrous no deal will do to my constituents, and so should each and every member of this House. When we have a government that is talking about medicine and food shortages and unrest on the streets, that's something that needs to concern each and every one of us. Now, ultimately, I want to live in a Scotland that is not beholden to the extremists who are currently calling the shots in this place, that is comfortable with giving citizens and businesses the opportunities of all 4 freedoms that the EU has provided, that welcomes the world and seeks to work on an equal basis with our neighbours. A country that is happy sharing sovereignty and resources over issues like protecting the environment and medical research, rather than having nuclear weapons and governments we don't vote for imposed upon us. But for now, just for today, getting to the end of the week without crashing out with a disastrous no deal is going to have to do for now. Thank you, Mr.